Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with the Vampire Count. It's going to be taking on the Dwarfs this time. Another friendly match between myself and Lore Master of Sotek. This one I can pretty much guarantee will be coming out after the Ever-Chosen Invitational, so hopefully Sotek acquitted himself well in the tournament, but regardless, I'm sure it was a grand time for all. And in this particular battle, we're going to be taking, Vampire Counts versus Dwarfs. So on the builds, Isabella going to be acting as my mobile casting lord here. She's got Invocation of Nehek, Dance Macabre, and Raise Dead, as well as Master of Beguilement, Blood Chalice of Bathori, which is only usable on heroes, so really only useful for healing herself, as I didn't bring any other heroic units. But if I want to try and get aggressive with her, definitely can. We've also got Red Fury as well, the Hunger, all the good stuff. The front line, we've got some zombies, two black coaches, of course. Chariot's good against the dwarves. Although the black coaches do magic damage, they're still potentially very powerful here. We've got lots of skeleton warriors, Konigstein Stalkers, and Graveguard, with three Crypt Horrors. Decided to try these guys out for size once again. Not the best stats in the world, but they do armor piercing, they have poison damage, so we'll see how they do, with a corpse cart to support the center. And that's pretty much it for my build. For Sotek's Dwarfs here, we've got Miners with Blasting Charges up front, a nice line of Longbeards Dwarf Warriors with a single Ironbreaker in the center, and this also includes the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass. We've got a Rune Smith and Thorgrim Grudgebearer sporting his new abilities. You don't see Thorgrim too often. He's got some changes recently, but it doesn't make him wildly useful, but he's pretty decent overall. He's got the High King, so that's going to only be situational. It's kind of like the Beloved Son of Bretonia. It's really kind of hard to even get this to go off, because generally if Thorgrim's below 50% HP, your leadership's probably not doing very well army-wide, so generally kind of a useless buff. But anyway, he does have Great Book of Grudges, which gives +9 melee attack, which is certainly very useful for the dwarves. He's also got the Oath of Vengeance. This is a single target, -27 melee defense debuff on a 60-second cooldown. A pretty decent buff. I believe this is one of the recent updates that he got. He's also got Stand Your Ground. In the back line, we've got some Rangers, a unit of Iron Drakes, looking very cool. And we've got the Goblobber, Regiment of Renowned Grudge Thrower, Giant Slayers, Dragonback Slayers, and that's pretty much it. So without further ado, let's get the battle rolling. You can see I'm moving up with my mobile units, doing some scouting, spotting the Rangers, making sure we stay on top of things. Probably going to be trying to summon up some zombies on top of these ranged units as well, just to tie them down. You can see the Goblobber going after the Stearnsman. Very good target in the center, although of course with the Corpse Cart nearby, they will be able to even regenerate unit models, so they will be able to weather that fire pretty decently. Speaking of fire, blasting charges being thrown in on the skeleton warriors rather than the zombies. I mean, it is a better target than the zombies technically, still not the most high value target, and as long as the blasting charges aren't hitting the Crypt Horrors in the face, that's really what I care about. And the Crypt Horror is going to power slam in here, start to take down these miners. And yeah, you can see, ooh, nasty fire, literally fire coming from the Iron Drakes there. We did summon up some zombies, and you can see the Black Coach is starting to scythe through the flanks a little bit here. We're going to start picking at these Rangers, and just in general rear charging various pockets here, but the Iron Drakes are really going to be the centerpiece here, with the Iron Breakers also throwing in blasting charges. Needless to say, that unit of zombies just got quickly crumpled. And of course, Crypt Horrors with the standard regeneration trait are going to be weak to fire damage, so the Iron Drakes firing in here is actually a very good target. Nice, tight, dense formation here. We just overcast a Dance Macabre here. And I actually earlier had dumped an Invocation of Nehek overcast on this side, even though these units hadn't taken much damage. It's definitely a bit of a mistake. Should have popped it into this center grouping here. You can see a nice rear charge from the Black Coach is going to terrify away some of those units. This other this other Black Coach, rather, absolute unit that it is, summoning up some zombies just to tie up the Giant Slayers and the Iron Drakes in the back line. You can see I'm definitely trying to keep those Iron Drakes occupied as much as possible with the Black Coaches. You can see Crypt Horrors even pushing through into the second line as well. And as long as we can keep those Iron Drakes from being able to fire in too much, we can hopefully grind through. You can see the balance power starting to tip in my favor a little bit as the Dwarfs just get kind of ground through in the front there. Actually, here's the wasted Invocation. You can see actually Skeleton Warriors have taken some damage, but that Invocation would have been much better used in this front line, especially because this unit of Crypt Horrors with the Oath of Vengeance down to 0 melee defense is actually about to crumble away, and there they disintegrate. So potentially could have saved a unit of Crypt Horrors there by misusing Excuse me about that invocation of Nehek there, but I do go ahead and dump a Dance Macabre over on this side. Going to follow it up as well with a rear charge here. Try and just blast through the units here. Of course, the extra melee attack going to be very welcome, and you can see the damage spike as these dwarf units start to take considerably more damage. Even the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass taking some pretty good shock damage there as that Overcast Dance Macabre does its work. Corpse card, of course, with its Vigor Mortis, also very key, as vampire units just in general tend to have crap melee attack across the board, but you can see those Cryptors just with the Vigor Mortis up to 35 and 29, definitely a nice little buff there. But of course, Thorgrim providing that area of effect buff to the Dwarfs as well, giving them that nice melee attack, and even making those miners quite decent in terms of their combat stats, up to 27 melee attack, not bad at all for just simple miners. Meanwhile, in the back line, Fire and Brimstone as the Black Coach charges through to once again interrupt the these Iron Drakes here, who are firing in on these zombies who had managed to come and finish off some Rangers here. You can see over on this far side, these Cryptors and Graveguard have just cut through a unit of Longbeards no problem in an isolated engagement there, so pretty nice. We've still got both Black Coaches online. Unfortunately, a little bit of a traffic jam in the back line here as the Black Coaches actually run into each other slightly, but just trying to keep them both on the move as much as possible so that they don't get dragged down by Slayers. Meanwhile, the frontline fight continues to commence. A few random gobs being lobbed and blasting charges occasionally as well, doing some good leadership damage, and the stacking leadership debuffs actually proving quite a menace for the low leadership vampire count units. You can see here, minus 16 from the Discourage does stack with the burnt effect from the Iron Drakes, so if he's able to get both of these effects on the same unit, they will in fact stack to provide a considerable leadership debuff. And you can see balance power is in my favor, but this center pocket here holding quite well with Thorgrim Grudgebear stabilizing the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass, keeping them fighting, and that Goblobber applying the debuff here, and you can see the Iron Drakes coming in range. So potentially, although these units right now, some of their leadership is a little bit shaky, zombies actually crumbling, but with some of those stacking leadership debuffs, they could potentially force this entire pocket to crumble. Isabella in the back line trying to shut down the Goblobber to keep it from continuously applying that debuff there. Isabella probably, objectively, I should have brought a Necromancer here, just because he's cheaper, but Isabella does have decent combat stats, in particular pretty good melee defense. She also has pretty decent ASP values at 170 with a good charge bonus up on that Hellsteed. Figured she would be a little bit more adept at like sniping characters and just going after dwarf lords in the late game, so that's why I brought her over a Master Necromancer, although you could make the argument for both. But you can see here, vampire counts units leadership already not doing great, and then the Iron Drakes are just going to pour in more fire here, thankfully not stacked with the Goblobber at the same time, otherwise these units would all be crumbling. But pretty much just the Cryptors not crumbling, still taking a face full of flame, and the Corpse Car also taking just gouts of fire here. You can see Thorgrim just adamantly flipping through his book, you know, settling all the grudges here. It's the fire and flames behind him. Man, what an awesome shot that is. We'll just take in the beauty there for a second. But the Dwarves have managed to pull the balance of power back to even. One of the Black Coaches did get dragged down by Slayers eventually. You can see the burnt out husk of it over here. But those Graveguard and Cryptors pushing in from the side, unfortunately, I did push in those Cryptors unsupported from the Graveguard and kind of just sacrificed them into the Giant Slayers. If I had kept them back a little bit more and brought them up with the Graveguard, they probably could have cut through those Giant Slayers, because the Graveguard in particular will do quite well there. But you can see summon zombies in the back line, cleaning up a lot of units. Just in general, we've still got quite a few numbers left, up to 1990, and that's the issue with the vampire counts, is they can just keep throwing unit models at you. But we're definitely not in the greatest shape. Crumbling units across the board. You can see the balance power slowly just kind of grinding down in the Dwarves' favor. And yeah, taking all that leadership damage and sacrificing a few units of Cryptors without proper support there, definitely costing me in this late game situation here. And just point blank fire, man, that Runesmith standing in a very brave place as these Iron Drakes just point blank fire into the side of this engagement here, roasting out some Graveguard, roasting their Runesmith a little bit there. Probably riding some new grudges there. Maybe some of these guys are going to be taken to Slayer Oath later, but in this particular battle, they'll do their duty and continue to flame the vampire counts units here. Rangers also firing in from the side. Still regrouped despite my best efforts to see them off with the the Black Coach here. So yeah, one last Overcast, Dance Macabre actually, not even an Invocation of the Heck, just to try and get a bit more damage out of these units, but it's pretty much a lost cause at this point. We'll fast forward a little bit as we are going to go through a relatively long late game here, me trying to finish it off with just the Black Coach and Isabella here. You can see I'm going after heroic units, and actually on a rear charge here I'm able to do some good damage to Thorgrim and bring that balance of power just ever so slightly back towards even. You can see I'm going after isolated, low leadership units with this Black Coach, just trying to finish off a lot of these very tattered units, see if we can't shatter some of them. And potentially, with a key zombie summon, a hit in the right place, maybe we can take down a couple of these dwarf characters and bring this game back. At least that was my thinking at this point. But yeah, it's going to be basically futile cause here. You can see I did summon up some zombies, kind of misaimed them pretty badly here. But the Black Coach, unfortunately, just doesn't have the mass to cut through, especially the Iron Breakers here, and there's still so many Slayers, these Dragonback Slayers in particular. They'll just cut through whatever zombies I can summon up, and Isabella trying to cycle charge dwarf characters a little bit here. Does get some really good damage done on that Runesmith, but unfortunately it's not quite enough. I have to take her back up into the air. She's got the Oath of Vengeance on her, bringing her melee attack substantially down as well, so I don't want her to take a bunch of damage and finish off the army losses. So we're going to just continuously come around and kind of cycle charge both these units here, a little bit in this late game, not too abusively, as I do kind of have these zombies fixing them in place, and I'm not like hard cycle charging, but at the same time, it's basically a futile effort, so we'll go ahead and just fast forward through this late game as, one last Samurai charge for the heroic Iron Drakes, shooting that Black Coach in the face. Actually not quite enough to start it crumbling, although it is wavering certainly. But yeah, at this point the Black Coach going to charge in here heroically, and just kidding, pull away at the last second as Isabella takes some hits here, and she's going after Thorgrim as well. She's just about at her healing cap now from the hunger there, so all that damage will be true damage. And just in terms of their stats, these two are actually pretty comparable. Oh man, and the blasting charges to Isabella's back as she tries to get back up in the air. That Blood Chalice, of course, easily healing her back up to her healing cap, but yeah, at this point, it's over. It's all but over, so we'll go ahead and finish it. I do finish off that Runesmith just about there, but it's not enough. One last cheeky zombie summon just because at the end of the battle, and that'll be it for the vampire counts. So very well played, the Lore Master of Sotek. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. Yeah, it was a super close battle at the end. Definitely some good back and forth there, and I pointed out some of the key mistakes I made. I'm sure Lore Master might have made a few mistakes here and there as well, but just in general, I feel like if I had been a little bit more on point with my spell support in the right circumstance, we could have potentially ground through the dwarves there. I do think that, yes, you're probably going to want a Master Necromancer here just to cut down on points. You could potentially, squeeze out a little bit of a wider army here. I also feel like you may want a unit of something like Blood Knights to really have a mobile presence they can occupy, because, the Black Coaches are great for cutting through formations and just generally, creating havoc in the back line. They can do some really good impact damage, but they can't occupy an entire unit at once in the same way that like a Blood Knight charging even the face can. They have a full 45 unit model, so they can hit the entire unit and keep them occupied, right? Whereas just the one chariot model will run through the unit, and maybe they might blob up around him a minute, but he's not really going to hold them in place for any length of time. So not that you would really want him to stay in place. Chariots just in general are meant to be constantly moving. So yeah, it would be nice to have a unit of traditional cav, even something like a unit of Black Knights, just to kind of, again, give that nice presence there. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.